The sun hung low on the horizon, casting a warm orange glow on the town of Edgewater. Its sleepy streets lined with cobblestones echoed the footsteps of its residents preparing for evening. A soft hum of cicadas reverberated in the background, harmonizing with the distant bark of a dog. Nathan, a tall man with a scruffy beard and keen eyes, stepped out of his newly acquired home, absorbing the sights and sounds. The move from the bustling city to this secluded town was stark, but he welcomed the change. An old leather-bound notebook peeked from his backpack, a testament to his profession and love for writing. He meandered through the town square, taking in the aged architecture of the buildings, the children chasing each other around a bubbling fountain, and the tantalizing aroma from the local bakery. Drawn by an inviting bench beneath a massive oak tree, Nathan settled down and began to jot down his observations. It wasn't long before an elderly lady, Mrs. Ferguson, approached him. Her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes sharp yet carrying the weight of countless stories. "You're not from around here, are you?" she remarked, more as a statement than a question. "Just moved in," Nathan replied, offering a polite smile, his pen poised over the paper. Mrs. Ferguson took a seat beside him. "Edgewater may seem quiet," she began, her voice a soft whisper, as if sharing a secret. "But every place has its tales, its shadows." Intrigued, Nathan leaned in slightly, sensing a story in the making. Mrs. Ferguson pointed with a trembling finger towards the woods that bordered the town. "That place," she began, "is older than any of us, and it has secrets." Before Nathan could inquire further, another figure shuffled over. Mr. Bennett, with a face carved by time and hands as gnarled as the branches of the tree above, nodded in agreement. "No one goes in there alone after dusk," he warned, his voice raspy from years of smoking. "Many tales float around, but one remains consistent: the nymph and those who don't come back." The weight of their words hung in the air, punctuated only by the soft chirping of the evening birds. Nathan's writer's curiosity was now fully piqued. What was it about these woods that held the town in such a quiet grip of fear? The next day dawned bright and clear, the sun shimmering on the dew-kissed leaves of Edgewater. Nathan's restless sleep had been filled with dreams of shadowy woods and an elusive melody that seemed just out of reach. As he sipped his morning coffee, he contemplated the tales of the previous day. The idea of an untold mystery, a story waiting in the wings of those woods, was too alluring to resist. Armed with his camera and trusty notebook, Nathan decided to venture out. He rationalized it as a daytime excursion, thinking the warnings pertained only to nighttime wanderers. The woods, with their dense canopy and play of light and shadows, seemed inviting yet mysterious. As he ventured deeper, the town's murmurs faded, replaced by nature's symphony, the rustling leaves, the distant call of a bird, the soft gurgle of a hidden brook. Nathan was lost in this serenity when a faint, melodic voice broke through, its notes weaving seamlessly with the surrounding sounds. Drawn like a moth to a flame, Nathan followed the voice. Every step he took seemed to make the song clearer, more hypnotic. It spoke of ancient times, of love lost and found, of promises and betrayals. As he reached a small clearing bathed in a diffused light, he saw her. Lysandra. She was unlike anyone he'd ever seen. Her skin shimmered as if kissed by the morning dew. Her hair flowed like the finest silk, and her eyes, deep and endless, seemed to know his very soul. Nathan's instincts screamed at him to run, to remember the warnings, but the pull was too strong. Lysandra's voice, her very presence, anchored him to the spot. A puppet ensnared in her dance. "Who are you?" Nathan managed to whisper, though he felt he already knew the answer. Lysandra simply smiled, a smile that held centuries of stories. "Someone who's been waiting for you," she replied, her voice echoing the song that had drawn him in. As the sun moved across the sky, time seemed to blur. Nathan was entranced, and Edgewater's warnings felt like a distant memory. Little did he realize how the woods were slowly claiming him, one note at a time. In the midst of the clearing, where dappled sunlight painted mosaics on the ground, Lysandra extended a delicate hand towards Nathan. The faint glint in her eyes betrayed an eternity of mischief, perhaps even malevolence, but Nathan was too ensnared to notice. Around them, the air shimmered, as if the very atmosphere had succumbed to her spell. Each breath Nathan took tasted sweet, yet oddly metallic. A strange concoction of intoxication and danger. "Dance with me," she whispered. Her voice a cascade of velvet and shadow, compelling and inescapable. As Nathan placed his hand in hers, the world tilted. Trees swayed, though there was no breeze. The brook's gurgle became a chorus of lost voices, each note filled with both mirth and melancholy. Their dance was no ordinary one. With each step, the forest reshaped itself, blurring the boundaries of reality. Underneath the duo, the grass seemed to pulse, alive with an energy that was both ancient and hungry. The earth throbbed in time with Nathan's quickening heartbeat, echoing an arcane rhythm that felt eerily familiar. Lost in Lysandra's gaze, Nathan barely noticed the way his own memories started to fray at the edges. The vibrant images of his childhood, the warmth of his mother's embrace, the sound of his father's laughter, all began to blur, replaced by a myriad of moments with Lysandra, as if she'd always been a part of his narrative, a part of his mind. A rapidly shrinking island of clarity struggled against this rewriting of his history. Yet, the more he resisted, the tighter Lysandra's grip became. Their dance became frenzied, a whirl of colors and sensations, with Lysandra's laughter echoing both the joy and despair of countless souls. It was then that Nathan stumbled upon a macabre sight. Shadowed alcoves formed in the woods around the clearing, each housing statues of men frozen in various states of emotion: horror, longing, ecstasy. These were not mere sculptures, but eerily lifelike, with eyes that seemed to plead for release. The chilling realization struck Nathan. These statues were Edgewater's lost men, souls ensnared by Lysandra's dance over centuries. Lysandra, sensing his dawning understanding, pulled him closer, her lips brushing his ear. Each one sought to know me, to understand the forest's secrets. And now, they are forever a part of it. Will you join them? The haunting tableau of the petrified men, combined with Lysandra's confession, instilled a surge of adrenaline in Nathan. He had to break free, or become another relic of her collection. But as their dance continued, the pull of the abyss grew stronger, threatening to swallow him whole. Moonlight, cold and silvery, carved through the canopy, casting ghastly shadows that played tricks on the eyes. As Lysandra's grip momentarily loosened, Nathan's feet stumbled upon something brittle hidden amongst the fallen leaves, a worn leather diary, its pages yellowed with age. His fingers, trembling with a mixture of fear and urgency, leafed through the diary, and as they did, the voice of its owner seemed to rise from the pages, pulling Nathan into a time long past. June 14th, the entry began. I've been drawn to the woods, the song, her song. Every night it beckons, promising untold wonders. The handwriting, neat and meticulous initially, grew more frantic with each entry. She's magnificent, ethereal, but there's a darkness, a hunger. As Nathan delved deeper into the diary, vignettes of the writer's life unfurled. A man named Samuel, much like Nathan, had come to Edgewater with dreams filled with adventure. Entranced by the same siren call, Samuel's accounts detailed his encounters with Lysandra, the mesmerizing dance, and the gradual realization of the price of his curiosity. Sketches filled the margins of the diary, haunting renditions of statues, each face twisted in a unique expression of anguish or ecstasy. Nathan's heartbeat thundered in his ears, the gravity of the situation pressing upon him like a weight. The diary ended abruptly, the final page marred by a desperate smudge, as though Samuel had been writing until his very last moment. With the moon as his sole companion, Nathan's surroundings morphed. Trees became grotesque silhouettes, and every rustle suggested lurking horrors. Determined to escape the same fate as Samuel and the countless others, he sought landmarks, anything familiar to guide him back to Edgewater. Yet the forest seemed alive, its very essence working against him. Paths twisted back on themselves, and brooks led to dead ends. A maddening realization crept upon Nathan. The forest wasn't just a backdrop to Lysandra's game, but an active participant. Whispers flitted through the air. Each voice was distinct, a cacophony of warnings, regrets, and pleas. The lost souls of Edgewater, their tales imprinted upon the woods, reached out, trying to guide or perhaps mislead. Determined to not be another voice amongst those whispers, Nathan clutched Samuel's diary, a beacon of both hope and despair. The chronicle of one man's undoing might just be the key to his escape. As dawn's first light threatened the horizon, Nathan's resolve crystallized. He would defy Lysandra's enchantment, using the wisdom of those who'd fallen before him. The first rays of dawn filtered weakly through the oppressive canopy, casting an eerie glow upon the shifting paths. Nathan's breath formed ragged clouds in the chill morning air. Every step, every heartbeat was a testament to his defiance, yet also a reminder of the tightening noose Lysandra had around his fate. In the distance, a familiar melody wafted toward him, Lysandra's song. It was not the seductive lullaby from before, but a haunting dirge, a mournful lament that seemed to reverberate from the very bowels of the earth. Drawn to it, yet repelled, Nathan found himself standing at the mouth of a vast, shadowy cavern. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its depths calling out to him with promises of both solace and doom. The realization hit him with chilling clarity. This was the final stage, the abyss from which no man returned. Clutching Samuel's diary, Nathan's eyes darted around, seeking an alternative route, an escape. Yet the forest around him closed in, trees bending and warping, guiding him inexorably towards the cavern's maw. His mind raced. Samuel's diary, filled with past mistakes, had to hold an answer, a clue to elude Lysandra's final trap. Flipping desperately through its pages, he stumbled upon a passage. She thrives on the fear, the surrender. To defy her is to break her spell. Gathering every ounce of courage, Nathan stood tall, his voice rising above Lysandra's mournful tune. He began to sing, his voice raw and filled with every emotion he'd ever felt: love, hope, despair, determination. It wasn't a rehearsed melody, but a song of his soul, a testament to his will to live. For a fleeting moment, it seemed to work. The oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly, and the cavern's pull weakened. But then, with a scream that echoed the pain of millennia, Lysandra emerged. No longer the ethereal beauty, but a grotesque specter of wrath and malice, her form shifting and warping, reflecting the anguish of the souls she'd consumed. Nathan, paralyzed by the sheer force of her presence, felt the ground beneath him give way. He was being dragged into the abyss, Lysandra's wails merging with the tormented screams from the depths. His fingers, white and numb, clung to the diary, the one tangible link to hope. As the darkness swallowed him, a single tear traced its path down Nathan's dirt-streaked face. It wasn't fear that fueled that tear, but regret. A life left unlived, stories left untold. And as the void claimed him, Edgewater's woods echoed with a new voice, a fresh lament, adding to its haunted chorus. A brisk wind blew through Edgewater, stirring the leaves and carrying whispers of tales long forgotten. Nathan's residence, once filled with the hum of life and aspirations, stood silent and forlorn. Movers, their faces grim and eyes averted, hastily packed away remnants of Nathan's life. Photographs of distant lands, books filled with scribbled notes, and carefully wrapped in old cloth, the worn leather diary. It was as if, by erasing his presence swiftly, they could pretend he had never existed, never ventured into the forbidden woods. By evening, all that remained was an empty house with walls echoing the absence of its owner. The sun cast long shadows, and in its fading light, a for-sale sign was hammered into the front lawn by Mr. Hawkins, the town's elderly real estate agent. He paused for a moment, his eyes distant, lost in memories of all the previous signs he had placed in that very spot. The woods, seemingly innocuous in the golden hue of the setting sun, rustled softly. A secret sigh, a knowing wait for the next curious soul who would fall prey to its mysteries. And so, in the quiet town of Edgewater, the cycle continued. The lure of the woods, ever present, promising adventure and ensnaring those who dared to listen.